Good afternoon and welcome back to Adventures for Anyone for a Transportation Tuesday. Now, it is a one-of-a-kind ride and it may be a subway, but there is only one N line. Now, why do I say that? Well, the N line runs from Astoria, Queens, all the way down to Coney Island. It has 28 stops on it and it goes a lot of really interesting places. So as I said, it does come down here to Coney Island, the end of the line, as well as the D and the F on the orange line, and the Q along with that N on the yellow line. Now, subways are above ground, they're below ground, they go a lot of places in New York, and Coney Island was one of the early stations. Trains went down here. This station is a beautiful old building. Now, I've taken you around the neighborhood a little bit so you know what a cool neighborhood it is. But this subway station, it used to be a train station and a trolley station. It goes back to the early 1900s, about the time where we got our first taste of a Nathan's Famous hot dog. There's a lot of stores in this station. There's a customer service center for the new OMNY program. So if you need any help with your cards or your rides, you can go in there. There is a Dunkin' Donuts in here. There's a police station if you need any assistance while you're down there in Coney Island. There's a lot of things going on, and it's this beautiful old building that used to belong to those trains on the B and T line. And you find your street performers around there. It's a really, really cool station, and this is the end of the line for a lot of these subways. Now, down in Coney Island, it is an elevated train, the N, and you go right through here and you have these amazing glass tile walls. And you have all of this art along the way, and everything from hot dogs to the Incredible Hulk, whatever's going on there. There's a Ferris wheel, all kinds of things that are art on the wall there. And then you go up to the platform. Now, another thing that the Coney Island and Stillwell Avenue station has here is they have one of the best views you're going to get from a subway station in town, because it is elevated. You can see out over the landscape there. You can see, the buildings. You can see the orange line headed over to Brighton Beach. It's just a really nice place to spend some time. Now, where does this N go that makes it so interesting to me? Well, you can stop at Atlantic Barclays in Brooklyn. You can get on the Long Island Railroad. And then here is the Manhattan Bridge. And that N train is one of the subways that goes across this bridge. Now, it's one of my favorite bridges to walk along because in addition to that wonderful South Manhattan view, you get a view of the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, what don't you get when you're walking across the Brooklyn Bridge? You don't get a view of the Brooklyn Bridge, but when you walk in the Manhattan Bridge, you do. And another thing that you get is you get these trains. You have the yellow line is right behind you on the pedestrian walkway going back and forth across the bridge. And on the other side, you have the orange line going back and forth across. It is a really interesting bridge with a lot going on. But here one day I was coming back from Coney Island and I took this ride on the N just to show you what a wonderful ride you can have on the N line. It costs you $2.90. It might cost you $3 for a ride next year. And you get this. You get this amazing view of the East River, the Brooklyn Bridge, South Manhattan, all while you're riding on the subway, folks. I went across at sunset. It was a beautiful view. I loved every minute of it. But that's not all that does go on with this N line. I mean, it has so many interesting stops. It has a stop in Chinatown. It has stops at the Roosevelt Island Tramway. It stops at many, many interesting places. It stops at Union Square. It goes all the way up to Astoria, Queens. It is a really interesting subway, and I just can't say enough about it. Not every line has all these interesting stops, And there's very few lines that have this amazing ride across a bridge on the river. So you gotta love it, and you gotta love every minute of it. And then once you get on that Manhattan side, it's not long as you're going over Chinatown, where you go down, 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 and before you know it, you're on a subway again. So there's many things to know about this N line. It is just so interesting. It has its own route. It goes its own place. And then here in Queens, this is Queens Plaza. This is the entrance to the Queensboro Bridge. And over your head, there it is. That's a subway station, folks, and the N goes there. So I noticed this as I was walking across the bridge that day. Now here we have the elevated train coming in from Queens. That's the Q line up there. It comes into that station, which is over your head. But here's the cool one. This is the N, folks. It comes up, it looks like it comes right out of the river alongside that Queensboro Bridge. But what it does is it goes under the river and then it comes right up out of there and goes over your head into Queens Plaza. It's just a fascinating train, whether you're here in the middle of the night, which I have been watching them clean the tracks at Barclays at Atlantic Avenue. You know, this is when they do it. They have these entire crews. They're absolutely fascinating. And they do this work in the middle of the night. That's when I was at Atlantic Barclays that time. But it's just the N line. It used to be the 4, it became the N in 1961. Takes an hour and a half to ride it from one end to the other. It's a long one. It goes through 3 boroughs. And it just stops at a lot of interesting places in a lot of interesting ways. So thank you once again for joining me on this ride, the changing terrain, the interesting stops, the strange to me maintenance, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Hi, I'm Terry. Thank you for joining me today on Adventures for Anyone, and join me again in the future and like and subscribe if you like what you see here. And I can teach you where to go in the Northeast, how to have fun, and how to travel the way I do, which is as a budget traveler. Thank you again. Have a great day.